ChatGPT said. The wind was dry that evening, carrying the smell of dust and old grass across the open plain. Amir wiped his hands on his worn jeans as he loaded supplies onto the back of his wagon. He was a rancher, a man who worked the land alone after years of drought and loss. His animals were thin, his fences needed repair, and his heart felt heavier each year. He had seen too much of life's harshness, and yet he never turned away when someone was in trouble. That was his one rule: never walk past suffering. He had come to the border market to buy tools and rope, but what he found there changed his life forever. The sun was sinking, painting the world gold and red. Voices rose from the camp, traders shouting, children laughing, the sound of a guitar somewhere far off. Amir's steps slowed as he passed a crowded area behind the stalls. A few men stood around a small cart, talking in low tones. His eyes caught something, or rather someone. 3 women sat on the ground beside the cart, their wrists tied loosely with rope. They were quiet, heads bowed, their clothes torn by travel and dust. Their faces carried deep exhaustion, yet their eyes, dark and sharp, were alive. Amir stopped walking. He could not move. He had seen people struggling before, but this was different. Something about the women, the way they sat close together, protective of each other, stirred him deeply. He asked one of the men nearby what was happening. The man shrugged and said, "They're being sold. Captured in the hills. Traders need money, you know." Amir's throat tightened. He looked again at the women. One of them, slightly older than the rest, lifted her face for a moment and met his eyes. It was a look that cut through the noise and dust. No words, just quiet strength and silent plea. He turned to the trader and said slowly, "You can't sell them." The trader laughed. "You want to teach me law, rancher? These 3 are just payment for debts. I feed them, I sell them." That's the world. Amir's hands clenched. For a moment he wanted to walk away. It wasn't his fight. But something inside him burned, an old memory. Years ago, when a storm had almost taken his life, 3 tribal strangers had found him half dead under his horse. They had carried him to shelter, saved him, and vanished without taking a thing. He had never known their names. Since that day, he had often wondered how he could repay such kindness. Maybe this was that chance. He stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Stop, I'll buy those 3 tribal women." The trader stared, confused. Amir added quietly, "Without them, I'd be dead." The words came from deep inside him, half memory, half truth. The trader frowned, unsure what he meant, but saw the silver coins Amir held out. Money spoke louder than morality. After a pause, he took it. The crowd murmured, some in surprise, others in amusement. "Crazy rancher," someone whispered. "Buying trouble." Amir ignored them. He untied the ropes himself. The women flinched at his touch, but he spoke gently. "You're free now," he said, though the words felt strange. Freedom wasn't so simple. He helped them stand, and they followed him to his wagon in silence. They climbed in carefully, staying close to one another as if afraid the ground would disappear beneath them. The journey back to his ranch was long and quiet. The sky stretched wide, scattered with stars. The women didn't speak at first. Amir offered them water and bread. The youngest hesitated, then accepted. Later, one of them spoke softly in broken English. Her name was Lala. The other 2 were Mira and Suri. Their words came slowly, but Amir learned enough. They were from a tribal settlement near the mountains. Raiders had burned their homes, taken survivors to sell in distant markets. They had walked for days, then weeks. Lala said they had almost given up hope until that day. Amir listened and drove. He didn't know what to say. His life had been hard, but he had always been free. The idea of being owned or sold made him sick. As they neared the ranch, he said, "No one will touch you now. You'll stay here, rest, and decide what you want next." The women exchanged glances. They didn't seem to trust him yet, but there was no fear in their eyes, only watchfulness. When they reached the ranch, night had fully fallen. The horses neighed softly as Amir helped them down from the wagon. He showed them a small room near the main house, simple but clean, with blankets and a fireplace. He hesitated at the door, feeling awkward. "It's not much," he said, "but it's safe." Lala nodded once. That single nod meant more than any speech. The next morning, the ranch came alive as usual. Roosters crowing, cattle calling. Amir worked with his usual focus, but his thoughts kept drifting toward the small house where the women stayed. Around noon, he saw smoke rising from their chimney. The smell of herbs and baked bread filled the air. When he went to check, he found them cooking and cleaning quietly. Mira had repaired an old shirt of his. Sorty was boiling water, and Lala was cutting vegetables she had found in his garden. He tried to thank them, but Lala said softly, "We work, we not burden." Her accent was strong, but her meaning clear. He smiled and nodded. "Work if you wish," he said, "but you don't owe me anything." Days passed, and the ranch began to feel different. The silence that once hung heavy now carried voices, gentle singing in the tribal tongue, the soft rhythm of feet sweeping the yard, the clatter of clay pots. Amir began to learn their ways. Lala knew herbs that healed animal wounds. Mira could calm frightened horses with a few quiet words. Suri had a laugh that broke tension even on long, hot days. The ranch grew alive again, not with noise but with purpose. Yet not everyone approved. When Amir went to town for supplies, whispers followed him. "Bought women," someone muttered. Strange doings at his ranch. The sheriff stopped him one afternoon and asked questions, gentle but pointed. Amir answered truthfully. "I paid to free them, not to keep them," he said. The sheriff frowned but said nothing more. That night, Amir sat on the porch looking out at the stars. He heard laughter from inside the small house. For the first time in years, he smiled without sadness. But deep down, he knew that this story wasn't finished. The world outside still judged what it didn't understand, and the women's freedom was not yet complete. Money could break chains, but it could not erase fear. Later that night, Lala stepped outside. She stood beside him in silence for a while. The desert wind brushed against them, carrying the sound of faraway coyotes. Then she said quietly, "You say without us you die. Maybe true, but we say without your voice we die again." Amir didn't answer. He only looked at the stars, wondering what fate had tied them together. He had not saved them out of heroism, but because something inside him refused to stay silent. In saving them, he had also found something he thought he'd lost, a reason to believe in goodness again. When the firelight from their window touched the dark fields, Amir felt peace but also responsibility. He knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, questions from neighbors, danger from men who had lost their property. But for tonight, the ranch was calm. The women were safe, and he could rest knowing that at least for one night kindness had won over cruelty. As he drifted to sleep, he thought of their eyes, wary, strong, alive. He realized that freedom was not something he had given them. It was something they were already claiming, piece by piece, like dawn breaking across the horizon. And he knew, deep in his heart, that the words he had spoken in anger, "Without them I'd be dead," were truer than he ever understood. Morning came quietly over the plains, golden light spreading over the land like a promise. Amir stepped outside his small house and saw smoke rising from the kitchen chimney, where Lala and the other women were already awake. The sound of pots, the smell of warm bread, and the calm rhythm of work filled the air. It had been several weeks since the day he brought them home, and the ranch no longer felt empty. Yet under that peace, something heavy still waited. The women were safe but not free in the way they wanted. Amir could see it in their eyes. They were still afraid someone would come for them, afraid of papers, laws, and questions they could not answer. He wished he knew how to make them feel truly free. One morning, while fixing a fence, Amir saw dust rising in the distance. A rider was coming. His heart sank when he recognized the man. It was the trader from the market. He came with two others and stopped at the gate. "You took my property," the trader said coldly. "Those women were mine. You paid only part of the price." Amir stood still, gripping the fence post. "I paid you full," he said quietly. "They are not property." The trader laughed. "You think you're a hero, rancher? Law says they're foreigners, no papers, no rights. I could take them now and no one would stop me." Amir's stomach twisted, but he didn't step back. "You'll have to go through me first." His voice was calm, but every muscle in his body was tight. The trader looked at him for a long moment, then smirked. "We'll see what the sheriff says." When the men left, Amir went to the women's house. Lale saw his face and understood before he spoke. "They come back," she said softly. "We know." That evening, they sat together by the fire. Amir explained everything slowly in simple words so they would understand. Lala nodded, her eyes dark with thought. "If they come," she said, "we not hide. We stand." The next day, Amir rode into town to speak with the sheriff. The sheriff listened and frowned. "You did a good thing, Amir, but it's messy. No one filed anything legal. If that trader pushes it, the women might get taken for questioning." "Questioning?" Amir asked. They've suffered enough, the sheriff sighed. I'll do what I can, but you need proof. Something to show they're not criminals or stolen goods. That night, Amir couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch under the stars thinking of what to do. The women had no family nearby, no papers, no way to defend themselves. He felt the weight of their safety pressing on his chest. Around midnight, he heard the soft sound of footsteps. It was Mira. She carried a small bundle of herbs and sat beside him. You worry too much, she said in her quiet way. We stay strong. We know this land now. It protects us, Amir smiled faintly. The land protects those who work it, yes, he said. But people still bring trouble. The days that followed were uneasy. Some neighbors stayed away. Others came out of curiosity. A few brought gifts, old clothes, bread, a quiet nod of support. Slowly, word spread that the women were kind, hardworking, and honest. When a neighbor's calf got sick, Lale went and mixed herbs to heal it. When a child fell and hurt his arm, Suri helped bandage it. The people began to see them not as strangers, but as part of the land itself. Then one afternoon, a dusty wagon arrived at the ranch. From it stepped an older woman dressed in tribal clothes. Woven shawl, silver necklace, eyes sharp as the desert sun. She looked at the three women and opened her arms. They ran to her and hugged her tightly, crying softly. Amir stood back, unsure what to do. Lala turned to him after a while. This my aunt, she said with a trembling voice. She come from north. She hear story of us. The aunt thanked Amir in halting English, saying, You give life back to them, but law must give name back too. She told him that she knew a teacher in the next town who helped tribal people get their papers and rights. Hope flickered again. Amir promised to take them there. The next week, they all went together. It was a long ride over rough roads. The teacher, a kind woman named Ruth, listened to their story and nodded slowly. It's not easy, she said, but we can start. I'll write letters. We'll make records. They deserve names that cannot be sold. The process took time. Amir went back and forth to town, filling forms, bringing witnesses. The sheriff quietly helped by signing what he could. The trader tried once more to interfere, sending men to threaten him, but this time the community stood behind Amir. Farmers, ranchers, even the storekeeper spoke up. They said those women worked honestly and deserved to stay. At the hearing, the trader shouted and pointed, but no one listened to him anymore. Amir told the truth simply. I saw wrong being done. I paid to stop it. That is all. They are not things to be owned. Lale also stood up. Her voice shook, but she spoke. We not slaves. We heal land. We heal people. We want peace. Her words silenced the room. By the end of that day, the papers were signed. The women were free in law as they had already been in spirit. The trader was warned to leave the county. Back at the ranch, the mood changed. There was laughter again, louder and freer. Suri danced barefoot in the dust as the sun went down, singing a song from her childhood. Mira helped paint the small house white. Lala planted herbs near the barn, saying they would protect the animals. Amir worked beside them, smiling more often than he had in years. Sometimes at sunset, they all sat on the hill overlooking the valley. Lale would talk about her tribe, Mira would tell stories of the mountains, and Suri would ask questions about the stars. Amir would listen, amazed at how life could rebuild itself after being broken. He no longer felt like the savior. He felt like someone who had been saved in return. One evening, the aunt visited again. She watched the women working and nodded with pride. They belong to this land now, she said. You gave them place, but they gave you heart. Amir nodded. They remind me what's right, he said. That's worth more than anything. As time passed, the ranch became known for kindness. Travelers stopped there for water. Sick animals were brought for care. And the songs of the three women filled the air every evening. Children from nearby farms came to learn simple words in their tribal tongue, laughing as they tried to pronounce them. Even the sheriff's wife brought her garden plants for Lala to bless with herbs. Life was still hard, but it was good. The land slowly healed, and so did they. On the first anniversary of their freedom, they planted young trees at the edge of the property. Amir helped dig the holes while the women tied small ribbons to the branches. Each tree was named for someone they had lost. When the wind blew, the ribbons fluttered like voices whispering home. That night, as the sky turned deep blue, Amir sat by the fire. Lala came over and handed him a cup of tea. We stay because this place listen, she said softly. Here, no one owns breath. We share it. He looked at her, at Mira, laughing with Suri, and felt a quiet peace settle over him. You gave this place life, he said. Without you, I was already dead, she smiled faintly. Then we save each other. The stars shone bright above them, and the air smelled of new grass and smoke. The world was still far from perfect, but that small ranch stood as proof that even in the hardest land, compassion could grow. Amir knew the future would bring more tests, but he wasn't afraid anymore. The women had shown him strength that didn't come from force but from endurance, patience, and hope. When dawn came, light spread slowly across the horizon, touching the trees they had planted. The ribbons glowed soft in the morning breeze. Amir watched them dance and thought that maybe, just maybe, freedom was not a single act, but a life built together, one honest day at a time.